All right, here we go. Welcome in, everyone. Let me pin myself for everyone. There we go. Welcome in, everyone, to another wonderful Doc Talk presented by Sports Management Worldwide. My name is Ike, coming from my home office here today rather than the office. And welcome in to a great Doc Talk with former NFL and NCAA coach Steve Fairchild, as well as Dr. Lynn Lashbrook. Steve is also the mentor for our football player development class, and we're very excited to have him in here for the next hour, as well as all of you joining us from all over the world. And we're going to have a great session for you. So kind of some ground rules for everyone. If this is your first Doc Talk, or if you've been with us the whole way, you'll know that we want to keep all of your microphones muted while we have Dr. Lashbrook and Steve up on screen. But we do want to hear from you, and we will be asking you guys some poll questions throughout this activity. So make sure you guys are engaging with those. We might even bring you up on screen to ask, to kind of have you share your thoughts and why you voted the way that you did. And of course, we will be taking questions towards the end of the session. So if you do have a question for either Dr. Lashbrook or for Steve Fairchild, make sure to click the raise hand button. You'll find that either on the reactions button on your screen or at the bottom of the participants list. So just some ground rules for you. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'll bring Dr. Lashbrook up on screen. Dr. Lashbrook, great to see you again. Thanks for joining us, and take it away.
Thank you, Ike. And I want to thank our staff. Sharice is in St. Lucie, in a little different place than she normally lives. And I'm live in Portland, and Adam's here in Portland. And we got Megan still playing soccer, but she's here somewhere in the virtual setting. And we got a great staff. I want to welcome everyone to our Doc Talk. Ike said, please use the chat room down below to comment on the comment. We used to say when we started the company, you could have a beer in my class. Now we say, no mask, bring a flask. And we've been through a lot with COVID, but use that chat room to ask questions. And we do this every week. I provide a worldwide chat. We have over 20,000 graduates from 163 different countries, 35 courses and counting. And I can't wait to say hi and talk to my colleague and friend, Steve Fairchild. Steve, how are you doing, my friend?
I am doing outstanding. It is good to see you again. It's been a little bit of a while, but I can't wait to talk to you tonight.
You know, Steve, it's crazy coming out of COVID. And I think sports, at least for me, helped me get through this. It's been a crazy time and a challenge even coming out of this, but it's exciting time and it's good to see your face. Steve, we're going to get right into our Doc Talk, and it starts with high school, assuming you went to high school with all those incredible records you set. But I like the story of any of our faculty because I think it sets the stage, and we're going to have lots of questions. I have lots of questions, but thanks for taking the time and come in, and let's start where you went to high school and kind of walk us through that world because it's all part of who you are today. Thanks, Steve.
Well, I grew up in San Diego, California, and I went to Patrick Henry High School. Probably our most noted athletic alum would be Ricky Williams, who won the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah.
Also went to high school there.
So in a way, you were runner-up. Go ahead.
Actually, you know who I played with in the same league? It was the Eastern League in San Diego. It was Marcus Allen. And Marcus Allen was the quarterback at Lincoln High School, and Lincoln's a high school that has produced a number of NFL players. And they were in the same league as us with Patrick Henry. But, you know, I'll tell you, I was a single parent kid growing up. My dad died when I was very, very young. And I was lucky enough, I look back now, I was lucky enough to get involved in athletics and get involved with a number of really good, talented coaches and people that, you know, in a sense, raised me and
absolutely
let me develop in football and let me actually make a career out of it. And so I was very, very lucky.
So picking school, let's talk about that recruiting process, because at some point tonight, we're going to talk about the revolution of NIL and how it's impacting recruiting. I'll get to that later, but let's talk about your recruiting choices. I think it's all important how you ended up where you did. You had an outstanding career.
You know, I have worked with a number of kids over a 35-year coaching career, and I'm still doing some quarterback training and working with kids. And the one thing I always try to let people know is everybody's path to get wherever they get to is different. And some guys are 5-star recruits coming out of high school and some guys aren't. And, I was a guy that played 1 year of high school football. I was
Wow.
always on the bench, and I played 1 year of high school football, and then nobody recruited me. And so I had to, and I thought I was good enough to play. I was ignorant at that point, but, I went the community college route and was lucky enough to the guy I got involved with that was coaching me at community college was Mike Martz, who later on became an NFL head coach and was the greatest show on turf, kind of the architect of that. So,
great guy.
we crossed paths at a very, very young age for me, and got a chance to learn from him, and then had kind of a successful career at the community college level. And then I got fairly heavily recruited coming out of there and ended up going to Colorado State. And the reason, one thing you do when you're coming out of community college is you're a little older. You're not into the recruiting process. You're into who's got a football team that's good and doesn't have a starting quarterback, and somewhere I could step in and play. So that's how I ended up in Fort Collins, Colorado.
So Steve, after your career, let's talk about your professional career, if I may. You left, you graduate, and then tell us the story, because I love the journey you've been on, or still on, if I may.
Yeah. I started coaching. I didn't want to be a graduate assistant. I wanted to coach. and so I went back to the community college where I played, and they let me, be the quarterback coach and maybe call the plays and, get heavily involved in the coaching aspect. But, I was also married and, needed to have a job. So I was, I did the laundry, I swept the stadiums after the game. Back then the billboards weren't digital. They were the billboards where you actually put a ladder and climbed up and put the letters up on the, so I would do that on Sundays. That registration was August 24th. So I started at a low level, and then, I coached Division II school, Ferris State, Michigan, and just kind of worked my way up and just kept at it. I was never the ends, coaching in the NFL, which I was fortunate enough to do, and being a head coach at a Division I school, I was fortunate enough to do, but that was never, the end all. It was just, a chance to kind of learn and coach kids and teach and enjoy life. And I was very, very fortunate, and just kind of worked my way up over a 35 year period.
How many years were you at Colorado State?
I was there. That was probably one of my best stops. I played there, and then I left, and then I had a chance to go back with Sonny Lubick, who was, one of the greatest human beings of all time, one of the most successful Division I college coaches of all time. And I had a chance to go back there for 8 years. And that was a very important run for my family and I, because my kids were just entering elementary school, and coaching's pretty volatile where you're moving around a lot, but I got to keep them in the same school for 8 years, and we won a lot of games. And, it was a hard place to leave, but at one point, I just realized that, I was going to have to make some money in the profession as well and put my kids through college. So I had a chance to go to the NFL, and from there, and I was a running back coach with the Buffalo Bills, and I wasn't going to turn that down. So,
and how did that work out? How did that work out? But how did you connect that? Just meeting coaches after coaches?
I tell people that story because I get asked a lot. There's a lot of people in the profession that are trying to, aspire to get from high school to college or college to the NFL. And I literally, Dr. Lashbrook, I was their fifth choice. I mean, they were interviewing everybody, and just, I guess, enough people botched the interview that eventually they said, yeah, let's bring this guy in. And I think I got the job by default, but who cares? It was a chance. My dream, like most kids, I wanted to play in the NFL, and I wasn't talented enough to do it. I was able to play Division I football, but I couldn't play in the NFL. But boy, when I had a chance to be part of an NFL organization and be on that coaching staff, I was just, I was jumping through the roof at that chance, and really lucky. I look back, and the Bills will always be a favorite team of mine because they gave me my first NFL job.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the quarterback position before we get into talking about your the class that we're launching with you. You've been part of our affiliation. You and Adam worked on many of our NFL prospects. You trained, and we'll talk about that a little later. We have a lot of people in here watching that love the game of football and looking to break in. You know, we have our digital video editing, we have analytics, we have the scouting, John Woot, Mark Dominic. We're excited about your course because it gets in depth here in the world of football. Everybody talks about getting a job in the NFL, but what do we do when we get there? But let's talk about the quarterback and talk to me a little bit about the evolution of the game and what you think the quarterback of the future might look like even this year. The game has evolved, if I may, and I'm just curious of your sound bites on that world of what we call the it factor and how many different draft possibilities and draft picks, and they all don't make it. And just give me your comments on the quarterback in the NFL today and the expectation.
I think it's one of the hardest positions to evaluate and project, and therefore, as you look back at draft picks and the just the course a lot of guys have taken, there's been a lot of surprises, and there's been a lot of what they say mistakes. You know, people that maybe got drafted too high, and I think the reason for that is if you go into, and I've had the good fortune of being in draft rooms when they stack boards and kind of read draft reports, and I think everybody can kind of come to a consensus quicker on what a left tackle is or what a pass rusher is. I mean, they look a little bit like the same, their body types are the same, and what you see on tape is the same. Projecting quarterbacks, if you ask people in NFL rooms, you're going to get all sorts of answers. And so I think because the standard deviation's so wide on what people are putting on draft reports, then you're going to have some, inconsistency in what you're looking for. I don't think, the NFL game's always been a throw game. And so I don't think you're ever going to get away from a guy having to produce in a pocket, throwing a football with tight quarters, being consistently accurate, and being quick with the ball because, the defensive backs are much quicker at that level. So, I always like to grade guys, in 2-minute offense, third down. If you're going to have to, at some point, throw a football in a pocket when they know you're going to throw a football. And so there's a lot of, like you and I and Adam have talked about when we train guys, there's a lot of, things that go into that maybe are a little different than what the people believe out there as being the standard thing for a quarterback. I think sometimes disassociating your lower body and being able to throw with your upper body is the main ingredient. Having said that, though, we are in a wave of mobile quarterbacks that are extending plays, and whether you extend it like Aaron Rodgers, you hang in the pocket and then play in that 4 to 5 second range, or you extend it like Lamar Jackson and tuck it and just take off with world-class speed. There's a lot, it's looking a lot different. Josh Allen and those guys. So it's a fun time to be a quarterback, not expert, but a quarterback connoisseur, so to speak.
Guru, we call you guru.
Yeah,
we got
guru,
the SMWW.
and just watch the way the NFL's gone and is going. And it's a fun time, but you're right, it's changing a little bit. And if you don't have the ability to extend a play to some degree at the quarterback spot, you're going to struggle.
I've got to ask you this: this coming out of college, the different programs, and whether it's Patrick Mahomes or other programs out there, is there a challenge sometimes when you see an incredible talent, but you worry about the offense that he had? Give me a little understanding of that, because you hear that so much, or rhetoric, but end of the day, you got to focus on the athleticism, correct?
You do. You worry about guys that here's what I'll say, and I don't know if I have the time to get into this. We do talk about this in the class when we have a chapter on quarterbacks in the quarterback meeting room, but anybody can play from 0 to 1 second. It's whether it's Deshaun Watson or Josh Allen, anybody can catch and throw, and that's fine. And then there's the guys that can extend, but at the end of the day too, there's those people that can hang in the pocket 3.2 seconds when it's closing in, and have to throw as well. So, I always worried when I looked at a guy and he was a look at one guy, it's not there, take off and run type of guy, because that is not going to translate into the NFL forever. I mean, you're gonna have some good games, but you're not going to be able to play. And that's what they're teaching in college now a lot. They're going to spread you out recruit you, put better players on the field. And then if you can't hit your first guy, just take off and run. And those guys have a lot of development to do, going from the college game to the NFL, as opposed to the guys that play a little bit underneath center and a little bit into a progression type of scheme.
Steve, before we get into some questions, anybody have questions, raise your hand. Steve, my other question is this, I'll never forget, I was fortunate enough to still represent Matt Moore, 14 years, undrafted free agent. We know there's other stories of undrafted free agents, but I remember Marty Herney, the former GM of Carolina, who now I think is with the Washington team, but he brought up in a conference, we do our conference every year at the NFL Indy. It looks like we're going to be back there for one more year in Indy, and the world changes, Steve. It's called a big business. But I go back to Marty's comment, the first huddle, he had the it factor. Talk about that leadership skill. You can only do so much with the arm and the leg, and of course, understand the game. But talk about the it factor. We all use it, but you do have an understanding that some have it and some don't. How would you describe that? Something you share in the class.
I heard a really big time GM when I was early in my career, at the combine, talking in one of the tunnels with an elite group of personnel guys. And back then when I first got in the league, I'd walk by and see somebody and just my mouth would drop open. But the conversation, and I'll never forget it, was if you can measure all these things, and you can even measure productivity, which sometimes I think we lose sight of. We get into height, weight, and speed, and don't pay enough attention to what they do on the field. But at the end of the day, the one thing you can't measure is how important football is to somebody. And you're not, I don't think as a quarterback, if it's not the most important thing going for you, you're not going to play at the NFL level. And if you're not I don't want to say type A, but a point guard, willing to get out in front, willing to be able to speak in public, call a play in a huddle, lead a group of people, then you're going to struggle. So I always said, it's got to be very important to you. You got to be a guy that doesn't mind being out in front. And then at the end of the day, you got to be tough and you got to be accurate. And if those four things, they can come in all different shapes and sizes. Breeze doesn't look like Josh Allen, doesn't look like whoever, but when you really cut through those guys, they're out in front of their team. Football's the most important thing in their life. They can hit what they're throwing at, and they're mentally and physically tough.
Right. Steve, you've seen the evolution of analytics and analytics departments. We grew up with a slide rule, if I may. I did analytics when I scouted, tendencies on first down versus second down. I guess that's how it all started. But I got to be honest with you. It seems to me those that are passionate about analytics can get into the war room. They just have to be able to communicate to the coaches. And you do. Isn't the challenge with all the analytics is how to put it to use with how to translate it to the player and how it works and not work? I'm just curious your take on analytics, because we're not going to ignore it. It's part of the game now.
No question. And in fact, we do a better part of one of my classes talking about it.
Yeah.
And what I like to do is go back and my NFL career started in 2001, and just look at how it's grown over the last 20 years. Is third down, efficiency more important than red zone efficiency, or is, explosives more important than winning the turnover battle? And I think there's a lot to it. There's no question. Data is important. But I don't think you can lose the feel for the game as well. I think there's just some times where, standing on that sideline that, you're not going to score twice. It may be the beginning of the fourth quarter, but you're not going to score twice. So if we get anywhere near it, we're going to go on fourth down, even if the numbers don't say it. The flow of the game says it. And you're not trying to win on Sunday afternoon. You're not trying to win a statistical battle over 18 weeks. You're trying to win that down on that Sunday against that defense. And So as important as analytics are, I think it's still the guy making decisions has to factor in the feel of the game.
Yeah, good stuff, Steve. We're going to go to Lauren with a question. Then we have a poll, Steve, and we'll see where. Lauren, introduce yourself, and thanks for coming in tonight as we get ready for football season.
G'day, guys. How are you? It's nice to be on board. And I just had
Where are
a
you
question.
from?
Australia.
I can tell you're not from Colorado. Yeah, it's good to have you.
That's right.
I want to go where you're at someday.
Yeah, I do too. I lost a ticket one time because of cancer, and so I'm going to get back. But anyhow, what do you do for a living over there?
I've been an intermediary and a sports agent since 3 years ago.
I love it.
I did it through the SMWW.
I remember that, and it's good to have you. Go ahead with your question or comment.
One question I have to ask for an NFL question base is, I like looking. I'm different type of scout. I'm one who likes the mature age. So rather than going through the draft process and starting at a young age, because it normally takes in AFL terms over here, it might take a centre half forward or a key post player, centre half back, 3 years before they get good.
Right.
So in the NFL, I love all my sports, but I don't know all my sports.
Right.
So in the NFL game, where would a mature age rookie, like a mature age player, be? Would it be a good pickup, or would it not?
That's a good question, Steve. Go ahead.
Yeah. There's no question that in evaluating people, the older they are, the more track record they have, the more experience on the field, and you kind of know what you're getting. The problem with trying to go with older players is your salary cap. As a lot of times there's a good portion of your team that you would like to be on that first contract, being that you drafted them. You didn't get them from some other team. You drafted them or they were a college free agent, because then that portion of your team allows you to have Tom Brady's or Phillip Rivers or those type guys on a little bigger contract. So anytime you're looking at evaluating an NFL team, you've got to always put it in terms of the salary cap. And when a guy gets hurt, a linebacker gets hurt running down week one. Well, let's say, you whatever the cap is, 180, however million it is, if you're a good general manager, you've held back some money so that through the 18 weeks, if somebody gets hurt, you can go out and sign another player. You're not up against the wall. And so let's say opening week, your linebacker runs down there on a kickoff and gets hurt and he's out for the year. A lot of the questions isn't, let's go get the best linebacker. It's, is he a $2 million linebacker, $2 million a year, $5 million a year? And so you got to fit everything in the NFL in that regard. So I do think you're right. If it was up to me, I'd get a bunch of 4th, 5th, 6-year players that I know what I'm getting. But I don't think the way the cap structure you can do that.
Thank you, Lauren, so much. Let's go to our poll question. I go ahead and screen that up, and we'll let everybody answer that question, and you can look at it too there.
Can I answer it?
Yeah, you get to let them pick what they want to right now. And I want your opinion too. And everybody, our friend Mark Dominic, everybody has an opinion, and being in Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes. But I guess I love the question because that's why we watch the game. But thank you, Ike. So let's talk about your thoughts on that question, Steve. Go ahead. We'd like to hear from you.
Well, I think when I looked at it, everybody's going to say Josh Allen, and I've trained Josh and know him from coaching from playing at Wyoming right up the road here.
Right.
I think Josh, before he ever came out of college, was physically better than most NFL quarterbacks. Wow. I don't think there was a lot of development there. I think people were talking about accuracy, and that was not the case. He was. You're talking about a once in every so many years gifted guy. Now they've done a nice job with him, fitting him into the system, so he has developed somewhat, in terms of playing the NFL game and not just running around, trying to win it with his legs. The guy that's impressed me the most is Lamar Jackson. And the reason I say that is I was not sold on him coming out. He was a big lower body. He had a big footprint in the pocket at Louisville. And whoever he's working with, be it in the offseason or with the Ravens, they've compacted him up. He's still got a long way to go, but he is a much tighter, more efficient thrower. So from a physical standpoint, I think he's done a nice job developing his stroke and his throwing motion.
Steve, we're going back to football development. Let's talk about the mechanism in place during the season. You're trying to win games. You're scouting the next week's opponent, but you got scouts that are out there looking at practice at colleges. They're going out, they're watching games. How does that articulation at the end of the season, we know what our needs are. We talk about it. How important is it for the scout to understand the philosophy of development inside an organization and what to look for? You just can't go out and look for talent because that's what we want to win. It's pretty sophisticated. The communication between the scouts out on the road and the operation and the checks and balances. Talk about that operation.
I think that's
people
exactly,
are interested.
You're exactly right. I mean, I think the more interaction that you can have between the personnel department with the coaching department, what do you want as an edge pass rusher? How many outside linebacker body types are you going to keep?
Right.
I mean, if you're a 3-4 nose guard and you're playing a 2-gap nose guard, you're a lot different than Aaron Donald playing on a 3 technique. So coaches sharing what they're looking for with scouts is important. But I've always been of the notion that when it really comes time to rank a position, give it a value and put it on a draft board, that the more eyes you have, because I've made enough mistakes to where I want everybody, if we're looking at a quarterback, I want the quarterback coach, I want the head coach, I want the offensive coordinator, I want the local scout, I want the regional scout, I want the college director of college scouting. I want 7 or 8 guys weighing in and telling me what they're seeing. Somebody's always going to have the last word, but I've always been of the communication's the key to success. Communicate and then get as many eyes as you can on a guy.
You bet. Thank you, Steve. Let's go to Nathan with your introduction and question for Steve tonight. Nathan, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, hey, thanks. My name is Nathan. I live out here in Jacksonville, Florida. I guess my question, when you're evaluating a quarterback, when you're going through, obviously you have you can look at his arm talent, you can look at his play on the field and everything. What kind of either like tests do you do in the classroom, or what kind of things do you do to evaluate? Because you have to be able to process very quickly and make good decisions. So what kind of things do you do specifically to kind of look at that?
Very good question. Go ahead.
You used the key word process because, you can break a guy down as far as making every throw and his athletic ability and his stature and all that. And then like Lynn and I had spoken earlier, you could talk about the character and the leadership and the being out front, how important it is to him. But processing and being able to work a progression is an extremely important part of playing the position in the NFL, and it's very hard to evaluate. And so I really like to see guys where I can see their feet and their alignment go from number 1 to number 2 to maybe move and hit a check down to where I'm comfortable enough seeing a guy get to his 3rd choice in the pocket. And because I think you need to do that in the NFL, and it's something that you have to look long and hard for on tape, and sometimes you're not going to find it. And I'll tell you, Nathan, sometimes I've seen guys, right-handed quarterbacks, when you're a right-hander, you can work left to right very easily. It's a comfortable thing to do. But when your progression starts on the right side and you got to work left, sometimes your feet don't go with you, and they won't throw that ball. You know what I mean? It sounds funny, but it's true.
No,
and
I
so
love
just looking for those nuances on tape, and that's why you're always a lot more comfortable scouting a guy that's been a 3-year starter as opposed to, say, a Mark Sanchez or somebody that's, Trubisky that's played a year and maybe a couple games, and you just don't have enough evidence to find, can he do this throw or can he not? But process is you hit that on the head. If you can't do it, if you can't work through a progression in a phone booth with tight quarters and people, grabbing at you, you're going to struggle in the NFL.
Thank you, Nathan. Let's go to Bernard with your introduction and question for Steve. Bernard, welcome in. Go ahead, buddy.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can.
Hey, how you doing there, Dr. Lashbrook?
I'm doing good. Thanks for asking.
All right.
Let's
how
roll.
you doing today, Mr. Fairchild?
I'm doing great. It's good to see you, Bernard.
Good. I'm here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'm a truck driver in my spare time, and I took up the GM scouting course. Question I want to ask you, I know you're talking about processing and analytics with the quarterbacks. Going forward, because it seems to be going that way, it's pretty much what it is, drop back, one read. If it's not there, take off and run. How much of that will probably be incorporated in the quarterbacks in the NFL, hopefully calling their own plays, because this is what they're teaching them in college. So do you think they're going to bring in more college coaches to kind of like fit them, fit that bill, or what do you think?
Steve, I love questions. They're educated, they're sincere, and they're good for all of us. And this is why Mark Dominic and John Wooten love teaching, because we got good questions from good people, and I love it. So go ahead, Steve.
Bernard, you're right. They are teaching that quite a bit in college, and I wouldn't say across the board, but a lot of schools are, let's get everybody spread out. Let's run an individual route. Maybe there's a little bit of a read going on before the snap if the secondary rotates to the right and look to the left, and vice versa. But look to your guy. We're going to recruit you to be a runner as well. And if you can't find your guy, take off, because by the nature of our set, we've spread everybody out there and given you a 5-man box. And if you make one guy miss, you're gonna make 8, 9, 10 yards in college. And I do not think that is going to. I think some of those skills are going to come to the NFL game. They already have, but I still think the way the NFL game is played with the numbers on the roster, colleges have 5 quarterbacks on scholarship. Right. NFL does not, so you can't have your guy running around there exposed like you can in college. So the way the game's played in terms of the running clock, less plays, I still think the skill is good. The teams that make it into the playoffs and deep into the playoffs are going to have a quarterback that can perform in a pocket that's tight and work a progression. I still think it's going to come down to, at some point in the game, you're going to be in a 2-minute offense or a very difficult third down, couple of third downs in a row that aren't 3rd and 3 where you can run it, but 3rd and 6 and 8. And to get to the next playoff game, you're going to have to throw the football. Yeah. And so that's why I think the development at the college level is key. It's key.
Bernard, good to have you in, and thanks for the question. Steve, we're going to go to another poll and get your opinion on. I go ahead and flash that poll up. So here we got the aspect of player development. What does player development mean to you? And Steve, we'll get your answer in a second. Developing individual skill of the player, developing leadership, developing better understanding, developing a well-rounded player. This is a tough one. This is the kind that you end up not getting into school because you put none of the above, and they said you didn't know what you're talking about. But Steve, comment on that, because I always remind students every week that GMs and coaches get fired every year, and the only reason they get fired is they missed either on talent evaluation or strategies. But it's still, we haven't mastered the science yet. But your comments on that question, I love the question.
Well, I think number one, it's when you come out of college into the NFL, you are walking out of one room and into another room that they are completely different. And so you're trying to teach a guy how to, develop in terms of how he studies film at the NFL level, how he works a game week. He's constantly interacting with, not just in college, they're all the same age. Now, you come out of there and you're a 20-year-old kid from South Carolina, and all of a sudden you're interacting with Philip Rivers, who's got 8 kids and is 34 years old from, some other place. So there's a lot that goes with it. And I think teaching those guys how to, it's not just football, teaching those guys how to, their brand and how to protect themselves and how to manage their money. And there is such a broad base of how to develop a guy in it. And it's not just football, but football's obviously the main thing for him. But, we could talk all night how you would take a guy coming out of college and just, they're developing 12 years later in the NFL. They're still developing.
I agree with you so much. Let's go to KP next. Thank you, Steve. KP, come in with your introduction and welcome in, my friend.
Hi,
KP, go ahead.
Hi, Dr. Lashbrook, and hi, Coach Fairchild. Thanks for doing this. And I have a question about with analytics. It seems as though owners seem to come in to the NFL trying to maybe run their teams the way that they ran their businesses. And I guess they're looking more towards analytics and more towards math, and maybe looking to spend less money in scouting departments, perhaps.
Yeah.
So do you see the game trending towards teams having what they call information gatherers, where they just get the facts and bring it back to the team, versus just the talent evaluators who actually evaluate and give their, their 2 cents to their organization?
Right. Steve, I love the question because I grew up with the 16mm film and I carried the 4. I was accused of being a hijackers after DB Cooper, and I had 4 cans coming out of Kansas City, out of Pittsburgh, and they held me off the plane because why would you have this metal 4 cans taped up, of course. And but I love the question. I think Kate brings it up, and we'll get into scouting a little bit. But your comment on the trend here now of information gatherers, et cetera. And
I've got a couple thoughts. And number one, you were talking about the owners getting involved, and I think even I think you look anywhere, the successful operations are where the owners delegate to people that really. This is a very complicated, very difficult business, very competitive business, and you just can't sell your company and then expect to walk in and win at football without help. So I think the owners, they do like the analytics. I think everybody does. It's a shiny new tool. I'm not sure that it's going to overtake the personnel side of it, but I think there is a piece to it. And you mentioned information gatherers. There are, I mean, the sport's becoming more detailed. I mean, there are people on the defensive side of the ball that don't know anything. I shouldn't say don't know anything, but aren't great experienced coaches, but they're going to tell you every time the split end lines up on the inside edge of the numbers, he runs this many routes. When he's 2 yards inside the numbers, he runs this type of route. When he's 1 yard outside the numbers, he runs this type of route. They're always trying to find an edge, and there's a place for people that just gather information and get it on your desk. So you can kind of look at it and ascertain what you can get taught that week on the practice field. So analytics isn't going away, but it's not gonna be
so let me follow. And KP, thank you very much. I want to follow up because COVID caused we just didn't get to go. Less games. Sometimes the travel was limited. A lot of scouts are veterans, and if I may, they're older, etc. I look at digital video editing. We offer a course in that. Mike Stober, the Jaguars, teaches that. We offer analytics. But I have to be honest with you, the paradigm of scouts, they're going from Laramie to Fort Collins to Greeley and then get down to Boulder, the exhaustion over time. I think that we're revisiting the best way to evaluate talent. And it's not just a traditional go from campus to campus alone. And give me a feel for the future in the job hiring, because I think COVID has created all kinds of practices or best practices. I'm not sure everything goes back to the 8 to 5 job. Your comments on that?
I think what you're saying is the same with a lot of industries. They're seeing that they can, Zoom communicate. They don't need to be on the site all the time.
Yeah.
So I think, I think there's going to be an efficiency that comes out of the COVID protocol. However, at the end of the day, somebody has got to look at a guy in person.
Absolutely.
Somebody, if it's a quarterback, that ball coming out of his hand in person is a little bit different than on video. And so I think we're going to streamline, we're going to be more efficient, but I don't think we're all going to work from home permanently.
Right. Steve, let me stay on that here, and any questions, raise your hand. But I guess I'm going to bring up Neil now, because when I was recruiting, when I became an agent 25 years ago, a few juniors would go out, but primarily we need to stay in school, degree. Now we have the young man out of Texas that accelerated his high school graduation to go play for Ohio State. He has a chance to make money. It's a seismic revolution going on in college athletics, whether we like it or not. I'm just curious on the talent discovery. I wonder if an athlete might, because too many athletes declare to go out in the draft and they don't get drafted. You and I know that's very sad.
Heartbreaking.
But I wonder if some athletes, maybe because they have a chance to monetize that next year and not rushing to get out, everybody wants to make another dollar. I'm just curious. There's so many episodes of Neil coming out, ramifications from whatever. None of us know for sure, but your comments on that, because so many players come out too early in the maturity thing.
I think people get bad advice, and at the end of the day, it's usually because somebody's selfish regarding the money and not about the individual and the process they need to go through to be the best person and player they can be, whether it's coming out of high school early, whether it's coming out of college early. But I will say this, I spent a lot of my career coaching Division I football, and then a lot of my career coaching in the NFL. The NFL knows what it's doing.
Yeah.
I mean, they level the playing field. They've got a salary cap, and they've got one commissioner.
Yeah.
And so they're not wasting the way college football's out of hand. I mean, you got the SEC doing what they want to do. You got the Big Ten doing what they want to do. One team's playing, even with COVID, one team or conference says they're not, then they are. I mean, until they get, and I think this is going to organically get there, but until they get this thing to where one guy is in charge and answering to the presidents and not a bunch of conference commissioners that are only answering to those 12 teams, you're going to have some problems. And I'll tell you this, to give you an example, as a college football coach, when I went out to see quarterbacks, I flew to 20 different cities to look at 20 different quarterbacks, rented 20 different cars, stayed in 20 different hotels. Whereas when I was an NFL coach, I went to Indianapolis and the players all came to me. You know what I mean? And there's just an efficient way of doing things, but you can't get everybody in college on the same page. And until they do, it's scary what's happening. I mean,
it is. And, Steve, I'm going to comment on that. I've been in college athletics for 50 years. And, what's going to happen, the mergers going on. At the end of the day, there's going to be a game on Saturday. I think I go back to the implication, the kid from Fort Collins, local high school kid, the car dealer, et cetera, might invest in that player if he stays in state versus going across the line. It's all kinds of ramifications. But I do want to say this, and then I want to talk about your course. I will say that I think that the NIL has to be part of the recruiting, and it's part of the equation. And without the NCAA leadership, we do have a mess. We have a salary cap in the NFL. Free agency, the graduate or the transfer portal is really free agency. I think being a college coach and having a nice season, you could lose half your team because they think they should have played. And I can't even imagine, and I'm not sure neither you or I want to get into that apparatus today. We're going to watch the sideline.
Transfer portal, all that stuff, Steve.
Yeah,
very complicated.
I know. We're in a good place, and then we're going to talk about our course. Let's go to one more poll. And Steve, I'd like to kind of the last quarter here of this Doc Talk, I'd like to focus on the course and what you hope to accomplish. Which coach do you think is best at developing players? You know them all, Belichick, Saban, Carroll, Lincoln, Riley. It goes on and on. I love the question. And I think you're only as good as the quarterback you're coaching, but I get a little cynical, Steve, as I admire what you've done particularly some of our free agents, how you've helped them get to the NFL. And I have a lot of respect for that, but it's a good question. And everybody asks you every day about that. So who do you like, or what do you see?
I'm gonna come out of left field on this. I'll answer all the above because they're all great. Those guys are all talented coaches and they can develop. But I'll tell you what, some of the best developing, if you want to find a guy that can develop players as a coach, go find a successful high school coach.
Absolutely.
Because those guys, they don't get to pick their team. In college, you get to recruit. NFL, you get free agency and a draft. And so in the time frame on those jobs, you develop some in college, but you're not developing much. I mean, if they can't play, you're going to the next guy. And there's no developing in the NFL in a sense that if you can't help us win, we're going to release you and bring in somebody we think that can. But those guys in high school, they don't get that. They have boundaries drawn for them, and kids show up. And one year you have a quarterback that can throw, and one year you have a quarterback that can run, and one year you have a big line, one year you have a small line. And those guys that are successful at the high school level, they know how to look at talent and say, hey, come here. You're going to play outside linebacker for me. You think you're a running back, but you're going to come over here and play outside linebacker, and we're going to win the state title because you're going to buy into this. And I just think the lower the level, the more developing that's going on.
And Steve, I'll say this as we talked about. I want you to focus on the course, what you hope somebody accomplishes in 8 weeks, where they have live chats with you, et cetera. But I would say, whether it's Urban Meyer or other college coaches that go to the pros, you hit it right on the head. The recruiting and the university's reputation and power. Yeah, a lot of coaches could succeed in that environment. I say it respectfully because I believe in leadership and coaches create culture. And Pete Carroll's done a good job transitioning the NFL from his success at college. But not every coach has that successful transition, and it's going to be fascinating to watch some of the new hires and everything. But let's go to your program, your course. Our company philosophy. We don't guarantee jobs, we guarantee an opportunity. You've been in it a long time. What do you hope to share in those 8 weeks? Kind of give us a general feeling about it. So hopefully some people want to sign up. They will, but we're excited about that program, and it complements our other football programs. So give us a little input of what you plan to accomplish in that unique course.
Well, we take a look at the NFL game of football, and there's 8 weeks, and we've got some topics that we talk about locker room and leadership and culture. We get into the analytics phase, like everybody's talking about. We get into practice organization and how players fit and reps, and how you run a game week, and how you script and how you build a game plan. We do take a week and do specific schemes. We let the class kind of dictate, do you want to compare gap scheme runs to zone scheme runs, or do you want to talk about RPOs? And we do spend a lot of time with quarterback analysis and what makes a good quarterback. And there's just, I really had a blast doing it in the spring. We let the class kind of dictate. We had the readings that we talked about, but then we let the conversation go with wherever the class wanted to go. And I tried to give some insight into my background, and tried to be a real resource to people. I had guys email me afterwards and, hey, coach, you talked about that 2-minute chart. Can you send it to me? Or can you send me this or that? And we even looked at some game tapes. So it's just a way to get inside of pro football and go as deep in any direction as the students want to go. And I try to share my 35 years. And it's just been a blast. And I'm looking forward to it this fall, and I can't wait to get started.
Steve, let me, your company, and you train quarterback, you do even high school and college, you do a lot of individual training. We think you're excellent. We bring our clients there as we go out and recruiting. We love what goes on. What do you try to accomplish, and what separates you? There's a lot of good programs out there, but what do you try to do in your quarterback training program?
I try to make it as applicable to playing as possible. And there's a lot of people out there that are teaching a very pretty throwing motion. I guess the best way to equate it is they're taking the quarterback position and making it a pitcher. And to me, a pitcher has no time constraint or space constraint. To me, it's more like being a catcher or a shortstop. And so the things I do are based on, number one, the great coaches I've had a chance, when you talk about Mike Martz and North Turner and Kevin Gilbride, and just being around some fabulous offensive minds, and watching them coach, and then taking what I've learned and trying to make it very applicable in a drill aspect to prepare guys to play. So really enjoy it. Like I said, I work with youth kids all the way up to NFL clients.
Yeah.
And I think if you get a guy that understands grip and rotation and alignment and balance at an early age, it can really help them.
I do too. Listen, Ike has a question. Ike, come on in with your question for Steve, and then I'll pass the mic over to Adam here in a little bit.
So, Steve, I wanted to ask on that third and final poll question. Lincoln Riley didn't get a whole lot of love, and I was a little surprised by that. And so, being the QB expert and kind of guru that you are, a guy that's developed 2 Heisman winners, and I think Jalen Hurts was second in voting just last year. Can you kind of speak to what Lincoln Riley really does at a high level, even still in college, but specifically with the quarterback position, and kind of what do you see from his coaching style and his development style?
I think he's one of those guys, Ike, that he knows his offense better than anybody, and is an extremely talented teacher. And so he can find a guy that he knows what he's looking for, brings him in, knows how to train him, and then puts him in his scheme. And what I find when I watch, and I've graded those guys all the way back through Baker Mayfield, he adjusts during the game. He knows if we're doing this concept and you're going to load the coverage this way, we're coming right back with this. And I think the guy's an extremely talented teacher, but I can see why he didn't get poll votes, because anytime you use the word Belichick or Saban, it's just hard not to push that button.
Right. Hard to stack up against them. And a quick follow-up on that. So between Belichick and Saban, I feel like they're both kind of the best well-rounded player development coaches. What do you kind of think, what does it take to be that level of a player development coach that can really develop essentially all position players, across both sides of the ball?
I think the one thing that would shock most people is how productive they are with their time at practice. There's no standing around. They've got more coaches on the side coaching guys. If you're out there for 30 minutes, Bill Belichick's going to get more out of that 30 minutes than Steve Fairchild or any other coach. I mean, he's just, they're very well prepared. They're very detailed. And I will say this though, if you succeed in the NFL in as opposed to college, because it's not a level playing field in college. And
you're right.
That doesn't mean it's an easy job. It's hard to recruit. It's hard to win, all that. But those guys like Belichick that win in the NFL at that level, that is, to me, that's more impressive than anything. And,
absolutely.
And thank you, Ike. And before I go to Adam, I got my pet question, with my buddy Matt Moore 2 years ago in Colorado when Mahomes went down with a dislocated knee. Somebody hadn't played, been coaching high school. Talk about that backup in reserve and how tough that job is and how hard it is to find somebody that can go in and lead a team. Your comments on that backup, they're very much underestimated, but when you need them, that's a tough job. And you got to have one because the track record now, especially going with the extra game, at some point you're going to have your number 2 on the field for hopefully not very long, but for a period of time. So the name of that game is getting a guy that can prepare without getting a ton of reps, because in the NFL, those practices are short because the season is long. Absolutely.
So your number 1 quarterback is going to get 9, 10 team reps. The backup maybe gets 1 or 2. And so a guy that can stand there, watch, and kind of see the the way the concept and the game plan is going in practice and not have to take a lot of reps. A very low maintenance backup is what you're looking for. Matt Moore is the definition of that.
Yeah.
Ryan Fitzpatrick, those guys, you know, they're worth their weight in gold because,
Yeah.
you know, they can sit there and when you need them, they're going to come in and they're going to play.
Steve, I'm going to pass the mic to Adam. Adam's the one that introduced us to you. Adam's been a great recruiter and agent for our company. I was also handling his career counselor, and Adam loves the game of football like you do. We won't talk about his Packers anymore, but that'll be an interesting dynamic this year. And I just can't wait for football to start this weekend. I'm just hungry for it. And Steve, I can't wait to see you and take you back to the restaurant of choice. And we're going to start traveling again. And like I said, we're going to get through this. But Adam, you introduced us to Steve. I'm going to hand the mic over to you. Talk a little bit about the course. Anybody has any questions? And I want to thank the group tonight for coming in. We love having you. We'd love to work with you, and we want you to work in sports. We always say, adrenalize today and get paid tomorrow. Stay passionate about sport. But football has a lot of opportunities, both in college and pro, Steve. And I think the business side is so important. Adam, I'll pass the mic to you. Good to see you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Lashbrook. Coach Fairchild, how are you?
I'm doing good, Adam. Good to see you. You doing all right?
Hanging in there. Like, well, as you know, for what I do, obviously, you know, recruiting players and trying to get them to sign to the agency side of the company. And obviously we've sent, I believe, 3 quarterbacks to you so far. You know, just wanted to come in before we let you go. I know we're going to let you go at the top of the hour, but I guess, and I see in here participating in this tonight are a few of our agent advisors. And I've always talked to them, and I participated and co-hosted kind of the last football player development course. And it was a huge benefit to me. And I also, you know, kind of encourage the agent advisors as well to look into the scouting courses as well, just because from the way I see it, the more education you can get being an agent in regards to what our teams, you know, what is that foot movement look like for a quarterback, and going over that and actually understanding it. So I know we have a lot of agent advisors that will go after some players, and I'm like, well, why do you think this guy's a prospect? And there's, you know, there's not much out there. They just think they see a name of a university and think that meets a qualification. And I think when it comes to the agency side of the business, I think it's very important to, you know, it would be educational for people that are doing agent work or want to become agents to learn more about the football player development side of things and also the scouting side of things, because you talked about efficiency a lot tonight. You end up being more efficient as an agent going after players because you know, as an agent, what the scouts are looking for. And if a player is a guy that can develop, you know, like look at what we did with Kyle Sloter. I mean, started off Southern Miss, had to transfer, coaching changes, everything like that, played 1 year at Northern Colorado, and then sent him to you for training, and has been in the league for 4 years. Right. Which not many, the average, you know, career is 3 years. So he's already beaten that out, and he was a 1-year starter at a, you know, 1AA school. So, you know, I guess what's your take on that? And I know you haven't really, well, you've dealt with some agents probably because I know you've trained a lot of high level quarterbacks and they're probably sending them to you or giving the recommendation. But what's your thought on that? And just from the agent side of things, learning what is actually being looked at and just saying like, oh, well, this guy played quarterback at Texas A&M and he's going to be drafted just because he played at Texas A&M as a backup, let's say, or whatever it may be.
I just think, Adam, and you and I have talked about this a lot, that, you know, the more you understand, the more information that you get, the more you know the ins and outs of everybody's job as best as you can. And I'm never going to be an agent. I don't know enough, and it would take me too long to go back and get all the things that you've learned in your career and do that. But I can learn from you, and for me to understand that part of it, and for me to understand the training aspect in terms of the weights and the conditioning, and for me to understand the way he was, a particular guy was taught in college. So talking to him, his position coach, just the more you get the big picture and get yourself involved in all these aspects, the more you're going to be good at your job. And so when I listen to you, or when I listen to other people, I can train a quarterback better. And I think when the people on the agent side and the weight training side, when they hear what I have to say about playing quarterback from the technical aspect and the fundamental aspect, I think it helps them train the young man. So I agree with you. And I think the more we kind of step out of our comfort zone and start to kind of look at what other people are doing in other aspects of this really broad-based, profession in terms of football or quarterbacking football, you just get better at things the more you know.
And then last question before we let you go, and I know you and I have spoke about this, and obviously the course is called football player development. Now with the delay of the XFL, it sounds possibly like the CFL might get a chance to play a shortened season this year. You have the spring league out there. You have a few the guys running the ANC combines. But do you see at some point, because I think you and I have spoke about this, that there has become kind of a lack of development for people that don't know, if you're brought in as the third string quarterback, typically you'll be lucky to get 5 reps at a practice. Yeah. At the most, some days you might not even get any reps. So in regards to trying to develop some of these guys to where they do get a few more reps, and with the COVID the last years with no preseason, it was tough on guys that were just coming into the league because they weren't getting reps in practice because they had to prepare for the season. And then there was no preseason, so they couldn't even really show what they could do. And I know a few of the quarterback that I was representing got released due to that because it's just the way it was. Do you eventually see some sort of developmental league here in the States other than just the CFL? I know the XFL is trying, but it's delayed again. But don't you think it would benefit the game overall?
I do. And there's a serious need for it, especially at the highly technical positions. And by that, I mean, the quarterbacks and the offensive linemen, where it takes a long time to develop techniques. When I got into the league in 2001, I had Kurt Warner and Mark Bolger and those guys, and we were out on the field throwing in February. We just brought them back, and we just did whatever we wanted to do. But with the collective bargaining agreement, they've slowly kind of limited the amount of practice. And right now, if you're a NFL quarterback, and let's say you're not the starter, let's say you're the backup for the Packers or the third teamer for the Packers, like Jordan, who we talk about?
Jordan Love.
So, you talk about a guy like that. In the old days, he'd have been right with his quarterback coach February 10th and getting all these reps in. Now he can't go into the building till the middle of April. And so I think people like me is where it's going to be. You're going to have to go see a guy and train, and you're going to have to train with a guy that has been in the NFL and knows what he's doing. However, it seems to be the business model now is trying to get a league together, a spring league, an XFL. I don't know. I think those are good, but I don't know how much training you get in
those
type things. Yeah. Whereas if you just show up and work with a guy, it's 1 hour a day of this and 1 hour a day of film and 1 hour a day of technique. And it's probably a little more productive to do it that way, but there has to be some development because it's the college game isn't doing it. You used to keep 3 quarterbacks on your roster, like Ryan Fitzpatrick's a perfect example. We drafted him, brought him in, kept him as our third quarterback. They wouldn't do that anymore. They only keep 2. As the game got more of a spread out nickel, you needed the 5th and 6th DB, you needed the extra safeties, you needed those type bodies on special teams, you needed a third receiver. Then they just decided, hey, we're keeping 2 quarterbacks. So the development for the quarterback position is not what it used to be, and there's going to have to be a way to get that done. And I think you're right. Whether it's a league or whether it's private training, it's got to happen.
Yeah, I mean, even they extended out the practice squad roster, but even then, you're still not getting the reps.
Yeah.
So you're not really getting the chance to develop. So
how are you getting better? If you're Jordan Love, how are you getting better from, February 1st to April 14th? What are you doing? Because you're not doing it with the Green Bay Packers.
No.
And so how are you getting better? And that's there's a place for that to be looked at hard, with a hard lens, and developed into helping these guys more than what's going on.
Well, and I think that's why you've seen so many guys kind of fade away. I mean, Manziel obviously had issues off the field and maybe some things that he might have been dealing with when it comes to maybe addiction or some other things. But you see other guys that have been drafted in the 4th, 5th round that, get released just because there is no development and they didn't have off the field issues, but maybe they're not taking it upon themselves to actually go out and find a trainer and be putting the work in as well. So
they're just their lack of reps is what it is. Like you said, they're just, whatever they're doing, it's not like somebody else is doing in those months. And it's a short window. Like you and I know, it's a short window of opportunity. So you've got to make the most of every day that you're training. And it's going to be interesting to see the direction it goes.
Well, yeah. And that, like I said, once again, great reason to take Steve's course. Just, you do learn the breakdown of a roster. And, most teams nowadays are keeping 8 offensive linemen, 8 defensive linemen, and 6 defensive backs. And so right there, you look at those numbers, you got 5 wide receivers, and you're correct. Now they're only keeping 2 quarterbacks. So for all the agents, advisors out there, you learn the breakdown of the roster, and maybe you don't go after quarterbacks like I do and go after maybe the positions that are being, holding 8 or 9 players. But anyways, Coach Fairchild, always a pleasure. I think I'm going to be in Green Bay the week that your course is starting, but if you want me to just come in for that first week, I'll probably be able to pull that off. I know Ike mentioned it to me, and
it'd be great.
Yeah, I think I'm actually meeting with the Packers, Gene Eric Sullivan, their director of football operations, while I'm there.
Cool.
Lynn better be scared. Maybe I'll transfer over into working for an organization instead of doing agent work. Just kidding, Lynn, if you're still listening. Anyways.
Yeah, if you could do that, that'd be great. Maybe do the first week with me, and then I can take it from there.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it so much the first time around. And like I learned a lot, and I love working with you. You're a great guy. And every single one of those live Zoom meetings was informational for me. And I've worked with you now for 5 years, I think, on sending you guys. So, but thank you again for coming in. I got to go through and kind of inform people if they're interested in courses, how to go about applying and things like that.
Well, thanks for having me. I look forward to keep working with you, Adam. Thanks to Ike for all his help, and obviously thanks to Dr. Lashbrook for letting me be a part of the organization. So again, this course that we're going to do is going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it, and it was good to be here tonight. So thank you very much.
Thank you again for coming in. I know you're a busy guy.
Cool.
So anyways, getting back to Coach Fairchild's football player development course begins August 16th. You can go right on our website, smww.com. There's an apply for free button right there. The application is free. The next day, one of our career counselors, either myself or someone else, will get in touch with you in regards to the next steps of how to go about registering for the course. And it's just not that course. We have courses in over 30 different courses now. If you are an alumni that is in here, I know some of you are, because your agent advisors, we're running a specialist month to where you get a $400 discount off any course. So if you're not an alumni, once you take a course with us, you are a lifetime alumni. You get discounts off future courses, conferences that we hold. We hold conferences at all the major sporting events. Unfortunately, with COVID, we haven't been able to do too many in person lately, but we're normally at the NFL draft, or I should say NFL Combine, NHL draft, NBA Summer League. We are going to be doing a morning meet and greet breakfast at the NBA Summer League in August on the 13th. The baseball winter meetings, that's still kind of up in the air right now, and several others. So our name is well recognized throughout the industry in all different sports. All the courses are taught by professionals like Steve. Steve was an NFL coach. And if you're looking to break into coaching, what our courses do for you is you're going to bring something to the table. We have free resume services after you complete the course that will redo your resume for you. Get the things that you're learning in the course on your resume. We have a whole job links area after you complete the course of where to be sending your resume and who's hiring for what positions. The instructors also give out career opportunities via LinkedIn before they go to the public. So if you do not have a LinkedIn account, that's another thing that we have you do in the very first week of the course is create a LinkedIn account, because that's how you can get a lot of networking done in the sports world. And then we also have packages as well. We have a football operations package where if you take multiple courses, you do receive a discount. If you're not an alumni and you're interested in more than one course, you do get a discounted rate off taking multiple courses. We also have a partnership with Concordia University of Chicago. I believe Ahmad's in, our agent advisor. I see he's actually going through our master's program with Concordia University Chicago right now. So if you are looking to get a master's or a PhD, we do have a partnership with them for a MBA or a PhD or an EDD through Concordia University of Chicago. And like I said, it's a lifelong alumni, great instructors. I feel that we have great customer service. If you're into or like to be an agent, we do have agent courses. Athlete management kind of covers baseball, basketball, football, and hockey. And then we have sports specific agent courses as well. After you complete any of those agent courses, excuse me, you do have the opportunity to do co-representation with the agency side of our company, and you get a 40% commission split on anything the professional contract would bring into the agency side of the company. I've been with the company for about 8 years and have had 5 or 6 players now into the NFL and 1 player that's in the NBA that I've worked on. And that's a great opportunity. We have the brand new course, which is the new hot topic on name, image, and likeness. That's beginning up in September. The instructor for that course actually helped develop a lot of the legislation that has come about. So he knows the ins and outs. There's some different rules in different states, which we help you out about with and how to direct that. And we also have an athlete marketing and branding course, which a lot of the agent advisors have taken. This is taught by Kristen Kaluga, who represents Vaughn Miller, who I'm sure you all know of. Keenan Allen, the wide receiver from the Chargers, who I'm sure you all know of. And basically, it shows you how to take now either the college athletes, because they can work with companies now, or if you have a pro athlete, or if you're interested in representing individual sports such as golf or MMA or boxing, how to get those guys endorsement and marketing deals and get paid on it, and also help increase their social media presence, because with NIL, that's going to be a big thing in regards to if you have 30,000 followers and you can get a deal done with a company and you do, 3 Instagram posts a month, you as the agent are bringing that to the player. You can get paid off that as well. And we help you in regards to navigate all those things. Ike, do you have anything else, or am I forgetting anything else, or does anyone attending have any questions for me when it comes to any of the courses? Or I've worked with Steve, I could try and answer any other questions there, but does anyone else have any other questions? Ike, can you think if I left anything out?
No, I feel like you covered a whole lot of it. Start dates wise, football player development is coming up here in
August 16th.
Yeah, August 16th, and name, image, and likeness is September 13th. I want to say we have digital video editing exos with Mike Stover of Pro Football Focus. His starts the 23rd. So a lot of great football courses starting up this week. But no, I really think that you covered a lot of it. So I think we're good.
All right. And I put my email address in the chat box. If anyone has any questions that they're too bashful to maybe come in and ask or anything like that, feel free to email me. It's adam@smww.com. I won't be available tonight because I have to feed my little 5-year-old daughter, but I would definitely get back to you by tomorrow afternoon. So thank you everyone for coming in. Thank you, Ike, for co-hosting.
Absolutely.
Thank you again to Coach Fairchild. And I'm telling you, Coach Fairchild's course is amazing. And like I said, I've worked with him over the past 5 years, and he is an amazing guy. So if you're kind of hesitant or on the kind of on the ledge on whether or not to take his course, trust me, it is a very beneficial course to take, whether you want to get into coaching or you're doing agent work or want to see how the ins and outs of a football locker room in the NFL actually works, because he goes over that as well. He has some very interesting stories.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll leave it there, and the recording will be sent out tomorrow. So for if any of you guys want to go back and re-listen to this, that'll be out probably sometime mid tomorrow morning. And we hope you all enjoyed it. Adam, thank you very much for spending the time with us, and we'll catch you all on the next Doc Talk. So enjoy your evening, guys.
Yeah, I was going to say thank you to all I see a lot of agent advisors in, so thank you to all of them for coming in as well.
Yeah, good to see a lot of those in there. So thanks, guys. Enjoy.
All right. Thank you.